What is up, everybody? This is Mason with the Next Guy Up podcast. We got a very special episode for you. I got Zach on the other line here.
What up?
We are ready to go. We are missing a third member, and if you're wondering why, his third child was born today. So congrats to Tinsley and Morgan. Super pumped for them.
Actually, I have a surprise. We're going to go live to the hospital room.
Switch it over right now.
The Tinsley's youngest member now. He has some college takes about the playoff scenarios. And here he is.
That would be electric.
Very good. He says Indiana's frauds don't deserve to make it.
How about Notre Dame?
He told me earlier today.
So we do have a lot of college football that we're going to cover. If you're a Tennessee fan like we are, was it good or great? A good weekend or
it was
a great
best case scenario?
Yes.
Honestly, the only thing that could have happened better is if Penn State had lost. Tennessee would be eyeing a home playoff game. Right now, they're on the fringe of it. I think it could happen still.
Yeah,
if a couple things break their way. But yeah, it was honestly best case scenario. I was watching the Ole Miss Florida game as if I was a true Florida fan, as was many other Tennessee fans. Apparently, the Gator Shop made an appearance in Neyland.
I saw that.
Tennessee fans. Apparently, there was probably the loudest cheer of the game is whenever they showed on the video board Florida beating Ole Miss, because all of a sudden opens up a playoff spot for your Tennessee Volunteers. So
for sure.
Tennessee is winning year in, take care of business against Vanderbilt, and they are eyeing a playoff spot. Where they will land, no one knows.
No one knows.
If this week told us anything, anything can happen here in this college football season. And so we're not going to make any conjecture just yet. But the one thing is true, and is that if Tennessee wins next week, we will be in the playoffs, which if you said that at the beginning of the season, all you have to do is beat Vanderbilt to make the playoffs. I think every single Tennessee fan will take that season. So we're gonna be optimistic about it, positive. I saw a couple projections projecting Tennessee to play Georgia in the first round, which is not ideal.
Not ideal.
So we're gonna hope there's some shakeups before that happens. But that was just some early projections. Anything can happen still, but.
Yeah, this feisty Vandy team, but I'm sure we'll kind of jump into that and kind of break that down. We had some messing around here that we were going to do before we continued the college football. Just want to throw out a little preview of what we'll be talking about, because really exciting stuff happened over the weekend. Way more upsets than we anticipated.
Definitely.
But speaking of an upset, we got some Thanksgiving coming around. We've done some Thanksgiving talk, but we've never done something like this, which is least favorite. According to an Instacart poll, least favorite Thanksgiving sides. Before I have you predict, do you have something that you just won't even touch? Even if, like, you know, Aunt Susie brought it and you don't want to hurt her feelings, would you still like eat it? Or is there something that you would just totally be against eating that's a Thanksgiving staple?
It might be tipping picks from later, but cranberries, anything cranberry is I'm good on.
You're good on. You'll pass on that.
Literally, yeah, pretty much anything.
So I will say one that I always feel like is a weird dish that I actually do like, and I think it's just because we always had them growing up. But deviled eggs is kind of like a weird thing, and I feel like you either love them, like me and my brother would eat like 6, 7, like a dozen of them, or you hate them and you're like, ew, kind of grossed out by it. But okay, so I'm gonna have you guess. We got according to this poll here, I have a top 5 least favorite side dishes for Thanksgiving. So go ahead and take a guess.
Top 5.
Top 5
least
worst
favorite.
Yeah, least favorite.
How are these numbers calculated?
There was just a poll given, and it's by percentages.
By percentages. I think cranberry sauce is probably number 1.
You would be correct. 27% of adults in the U.S. said that is their least favorite side. That is number 1.
I feel like it's a polarizing. Some people really like it, and some people are like, "Oh."
And I don't hate. I think I put a little bit on there just to say that I've had some, but it's not like
feel festive, you know.
Yeah, just put it on there, and be like, hey, look, I'm eating this. So Cranberry sauce, number 1.
Okay.
What else would you throw in there? One of them is like super random. Like I would have never thought of this in a million years. I wouldn't even
As
think
a
of this as
Thanksgiving
a.
side dish.
Yeah, these are all sides. So I'll go ahead and tell you, turkey and ham are not on this list.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's side
Um,
dishes.
what about? I feel like this is not my opinion, but I feel like some people are anti-stuffing
That
dressing.
is not on the list, but I've heard of people saying that too, and I'm like, that's one of my more favorite.
I know.
But
I like it.
also, well, go ahead.
No, that's what I was saying. I just like it.
You can
It's
get
good.
into some controversy of people being like, it's not real stuffing if it came from a box where you mix water. Like it has to be like the stuffing actually in a turkey, which I don't know
Hmm.
if I've ever even like had that where it's like the actual. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Huh?
Like you bake it in there and then you like take it
Yeah,
out.
you bake it in the turkey, I guess. Okay. I
Interesting.
do want to, I'm throwing out more hints. There is a dessert on this list.
A dessert,
A dessert.
like pumpkin pie.
That's not one of them.
People like pumpkin pie. I feel
Like,
like. Are there any that just like straight up vegetables on the side list?
yes, there is. Yep.
Like green
You're
beans?
not. I'll give it to you.
I'm
Number
not a green
2,
beans fan,
green
I'll be
bean
honest.
casserole.
Oh, yeah, that's close. Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
25% of adults say that
Don't
that's
like
their
it's their
least
least
favorite.
favorite.
Yeah, least favorite.
Yeah, I can see that. Um, okay. I like that. Boy, I'm struggling with this, huh?
Well, I can just start throwing them out
Okay, yeah. Hit me.
whenever we
Hit
give
me.
up. Number 3, this was a weird one. Roasted autumn vegetables.
Mm,
Yeah.
just some
Number
like fluffy.
4, pecan pie or pecan, as Tinsley
Wow.
likes.
That's
Yeah, that's what I was
hated?
saying. I think a lot of people either allergies or
Haters.
people just don't like pecans.
Hmm.
And then number 5 is sweet potatoes or yams.
People don't like them?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What a weird list.
That is a weird list. The thing
America
that
stupid.
the cranberry sauce that grosses me out the most is if it's like in the can and it is can shaped. Like it literally has the rings around it that it just like came right out of the can.
Stuff
But
that comes straight from a can that's like I'm always gonna be a little skeptical of. I'm just like, when was this
really,
made and how old is this? And you just never really know.
you're right.
Which
We
has
don't
its
know.
perks sometimes, probably, but
Yeah, for sure. All right, that was my
hmm,
messing around for today there with that
great
little
work.
poll. I'm sure we'll be dropping an episode on Thanksgiving Day, so make sure to check that one out, but I'm sure we'll throw in a little more festive, possibly, who knows. So
Could be
could
all
be
business at that
all
point.
business.
Tennessee season on the line.
It's true. It's a big
You don't
deal.
mess around in those situations.
Oh. Okay, Zach. Well, do we want to we've talked about in the past of doing having me predict a movie. Do you have
Right.
one, or do we want to just dive right into college football?
I do have one.
Oh gosh. Okay.
This is one that we've talked about a lot.
Okay.
And it's always funny people because I feel like I pick up like bits and pieces of movies, but I just don't
Hmm.
understand what it actually is about. So this has been a famous one we've talked about some. Um, The Shawshank Redemption,
Yes, we have talked about this.
but you've not watched it, right?
I have not. No.
Okay. If your life was on the line and the only way you could survive was to accurately explain this movie, how would you do?
And that's the thing too, is like I've heard of it. I know
Something
Denzel
about it, I'm
Washington
sure.
is like the let's
Not
so I
Denzel
know he breaks
Washington.
out of prison and he like
Not Samuel L. Jackson either. It's
wait, did I get the characters wrong?
it's definitely
You don't even
it's
know who's in it.
I know Morgan Freeman, Tim
Morgan
Robbins.
Freeman's in it. Wow. Okay. Well, Morgan Freeman crawling through a sewage pipe to get out of prison. He
Okay,
was wrongfully accused of doing something that he didn't do and got
okay,
locked up in a prison. He befriends somebody. It's almost like a prison break. He's trying to get out of prison, and that's how it ends. Is him crawling through the sewer to get out of prison.
wow.
How'd I do?
Um, you're
You
like,
have seen this, right?
oh yeah. You're
Okay.
like 40% correct. I feel like I should give you a percentage accurate.
40%. Okay. I'll take
Maybe
it.
less. You mix some of the characters up.
Okay.
So Morgan Freeman. This is I'm not gonna spoil the whole movie, but if you haven't watched it and you want to watch it, now's the time to log off or skip ahead about 30 seconds. Morgan Freeman is in prison, and he has
Yes.
been in prison for a long time because he actually committed a crime.
Oh, okay.
He's actually a criminal. Um, Tim Robbins' character, whose name is Andy. It's Andy, and Red is Morgan Freeman's character. Tim Robbins' character is really smart, and he is wrongly convicted of like a fraud, something like that. He's a banker, so he's
Okay,
good with
so
money. So he
I got
gets
a little
in,
bit of it. There we go.
And Morgan Freeman is near the end of his sentence. He keeps getting denied for like parole but he's been in prison for a long time. And Andy shows up, and they get a friendship. And you are correct. It is at its core like they're both trying to get out of prison situation.
There we go.
Are
40%
you
ain't
gonna watch
bad.
this movie, Mason? Do you
I
have
should.
plans?
Well,
Okay.
listen, I've
I don't
watched
want to tell you the end of
Gladiator.
it because I don't want to completely spoil everything for you.
Yeah. I
So
appreciate that.
we're not going to do that here. Go watch the movie.
Go watch the movie. Okay.
So you've seen that one scene of the movie, basically.
Yeah, I think it's just like in clips or like
Yeah, it's
just
pretty famous
yeah.
clip. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
behind the poster. There's a hole in the wall.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a good one.
Yeah. But I kind of dropped it a minute ago. I've been in a movie
Even
watching
worse.
just watched Gladiator.
You
It was
watched
one of
it?
those things yeah, the first one.
Wow,
Because the second
pretty
one is out.
good.
Yeah.
How'd you feel?
So
Were you entertained?
I was
Were you not
entertained.
entertained?
That's
Okay.
the famous scene that I already knew. Yeah, it's one of those things where you kind of forget that it was made in 2000 and you're like, "Man."
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
that bad. It's
but
not that old.
it's a pretty good movie though. I liked it. I
It's great.
enjoyed it. So, are you gonna watch the second one?
To not fat. Um, what's his face before he was fat?
Russell Crowe.
Yes, correct. Man, my brain is not working. Yeah, Russell Crowe back when he was like super jacked and in shape.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the second one eventually.
Okay.
I have
There
not
we
seen
go.
it yet. I will watch it.
We'll
I'm
have
pretty
to
excited. I've heard it's good.
once you watch it, we'll have to
And
do a
so,
should you watch that. So,
Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal.
yep. And then I accidentally said Denzel Washington's in this one for sure.
That's what he is in this one, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks good. We watched the preview.
Oh yeah,
It
he's gonna be
looks
good.
yeah. So, okay, we have a
Okay.
packed college
Oh boy,
football. A lot
what a
happened.
what a
So
mess.
let's yeah. Here's the thing. We felt pretty comfortable. What was the
Mm-hmm.
first game? Oh, when we saw. So I want to kind of go in order a little bit, and you kind of break down.
Okay.
But Ohio State, you told me beforehand the last episode we needed a blowout against Indiana. So I think that
Blowout.
was the first game, like that was a noon game, and we sure did get that. Well, I don't know if you call it a blowout, but it was a semi blowout, 38-15. And you were asking, is that enough? This is
Not
before
enough.
I want to go through the timeline of Zach's
No.
head. This is before
Okay.
everything else happened.
Yeah.
So at the time, you're like, is that enough? And then
Yep.
what do you want to? Was there anything that shouted out at this game? And we can just kind of keep going
Okay.
through these games as we go because the
Yeah.
Tennessee game was also going on at this time, and there was no
Correct.
offense that
I was
had
not
been
watching
had.
the Tennessee game. That's where I was yesterday. I did not watch. I watched maybe like 5 minutes of the Tennessee game, and I
Yeah,
was watching like 4 other games at the same time because they were much more important at that point than the Tennessee game. Um, with the Indiana game, I knew that if Indiana was going to get dropped out, it had to look really ugly, which it really was. It was like 31-7 coming down the stretch. Got into garbage time. Ohio State kind of messed around, like Indiana scored a touchdown
yeah,
in a 2-point conversion, 31-15. Ohio State scored another kind of garbage time touchdown, which made it 38-15, which in my head, I was like 35 is a number where I think if they'd won by 35, it would have been really ugly and the committee would have to think twice about it. That game matters much less now looking at the rest of what happened in
yeah,
the day. Luckily, if everything else had gone chalk, I would be very, very nervous right now.
yeah.
And,
So let's go ahead and jump into that because it
okay,
wasn't chalk.
yeah,
The
go
next
ahead. Yeah,
afternoon games was Florida and Ole Miss.
It was really like it was the same time slot, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. Maybe it
It was in
was.
the, it was day it
I
was
think it
the
started. Yeah, I think it
noon.
like ended later than that. Yeah, you're right.
Maybe it
So
did.
that game was going on, and it was a close battle back and forth
I was
throughout the whole
watching that
game.
one. That was like the game where I texted in a group text and I was like, "This Tennessee season could be on the line right now. Like if Florida wins, Tennessee's basically in the playoffs. If they win next week, if Ole Miss pulls it out, Tennessee could get left out. Like this is could be the season on the line." And Jackson Dart imploded
Mm.
at the end of the game.
He still had
I
a
mean,
chance again because
truly
they yeah, he had
throws a
another
pick,
chance.
throws a pick. Florida goes 3-and-out, has to punt it with about a minute and maybe about a minute left. Throws a pick. Turns out it was dropped. Comes back on
Yep,
the field, throws another
another
pick.
pick.
I mean,
Mm.
he threw 3 picks in like a matter of like 10 minutes live time, and uh, that was pretty much it. I mean, Jackson Dart's a great player. Florida, when it's all said and done, what the reality is, Florida team is playing pretty good football right now. DJ Lagway is legit.
Mm.
He is going to be a great quarterback next year. Um, Florida, all credit to Florida. I will say it's easier to say this because we beat them, but they have battled. If you look at their schedule, they are 6-5 right now. I predicted 3 wins at the beginning of the season
Yeah.
because their schedule was so difficult. They're 6-5. They're 5 losses. Their worst loss was Kentucky, but their other 4 losses are to Tennessee, Alabama, nope, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia,
And
and
Miami.
Miami. That's potentially 4 playoff teams.
Yeah.
I mean, it is 4 playoff teams. So they lost 2 plus Kentucky. So when you look at this Florida team, I think they may be ranked. I think they might jump into like the 20s of the AP poll. And I think they probably deserve to.
Yeah, so
Um,
some of their wins that they did have was over LSU,
mhm.
Ole Miss. Obviously, they
Back to
beat
back.
Kentucky 48-20.
Lost to
Uh,
Kentucky. Right.
no, they beat Kentucky 48-20 on the 19th of October.
Okay.
They took Tennessee to overtime, which had
Mm-hmm.
us all kind of freaking out a little bit. So yeah, I don't know if you can, but anyways,
Hmm.
Phil, let's continue. Are we good with that? Are we good with it? So we had the Florida Ole
So that
Miss,
one was
and
yeah. That's
you were
huge.
feeling the most confident after that. But then we got some little extra like upsets that we were like, okay, we'll take them, right? You were just like, I wasn't expecting this, but we'll
Mm-hmm.
take it.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I want to just throw out one little shout out. UMass kept Georgia like on the like. I know the score doesn't look like it, but the beginning of that game, I was like, what's happening right now? Is this going to like come down to the wire here? And then Georgia just, you know, but it was
Texas
21 to
A&M was the
14,
other loss
and
for Florida.
Georgia
Sorry,
did, huh?
Texas A&M was the other Florida loss.
Okay, there you go.
I was wrong. Yeah, that's it.
21 to it was 21 to 14 in the second quarter. Georgia
Mm.
and UMass, and then UMass like just got
Which is what's supposed to happen
trampled on.
to those type of
Exactly.
teams. But
But let's go ahead and go to like the other couple upsets.
okay,
You were let's
Penn
walk
State
them
nearly
through.
happened.
Do what?
Penn State was a near upset,
Yes, almost there.
very close,
Minnesota,
which would
very
have been big.
close. In
Yeah, Minnesota was
Minnesota,
great. Penn State fraud watch.
fraud watch. There we go. And I want to when we talk about some of the predictions, we'll see where they end up lining up. But then
Okay,
Arizona State and BYU. And BY, oh my gosh, what a crazy ending to that one. They
it
had
was
to get everybody off the field.
one of the most wild things I've seen. Is there a
Um,
worse feeling than like it because it always you always think back to the band getting on the field before the final
yeah,
play. The band's out on the field. It feels like that. Like what would happen if they had hit that Hail Mary at the end and it was like,
shoot.
oh man.
They almost did at the end.
I
That
would
would have
love to
been
know why they how did Arizona State not receive like multiple penalties for like I feel like that should be an on-field penalty
that
at that
should
point.
be. Yes. Cuz then it was delay it was a 13-minute delay. So then you're having both sides, but especially like BYU kind of waiting around out of it a little bit.
I mean, a 15-yard penalty would have put them like close to range where they could have got a touchdown.
Yeah.
They could have really taken a pretty good shot at it. So,
and we've talked about this on the pod before about storming the court when Caitlin Clark got hit one time, and some of these players, I
yeah,
think a Duke player like kind of flopped one time, and but I
yeah.
always wonder if this will be something that will just like they will somehow find a way to prevent this from.
There
I
was
don't know
so
if it
many
ever
field
will.
storms yesterday.
And sometimes they're not even. I'm like, okay, have you ever looked at it and you're like, does that actually deserve a storm? I know
Yeah,
BYU
Nebraska
was
yesterday.
do what?
Nebraska stormed the field
Yes,
yesterday, and I
yeah.
was like,
So
ugh.
BYU was in the playoff standing, right? They were
um,
they they were
no, because they
before
lost
then.
last week as well. They
Yeah.
had dropped
So
out, but the winner of the
okay.
Big 12 obviously is going.
Yeah.
And BYU's been there all year. It
Yeah.
turns out BYU's maybe not that great and
Mm.
had benefited from a pretty easy schedule
He's
up to this
scheduled to
point.
start.
But Arizona State now in the driver's seat after another game we're going to talk about Colorado's performance.
Mm.
The Big 12 is kind of a disaster right now overall.
Yeah.
It's a mess. Like
It really
if
is.
you look at conference championship projections right now, people aren't even trying to predict Big 12 because it is a disaster. Like it could go many different ways next week because anyone could lose. No one's locked into a spot. Everything is in flux still. What a wild conference that is. One of them's getting into the playoffs.
Yeah. Has to.
Probably will not be BYU. Could
So
be, but
yeah, Colorado takes their third loss. Bummer,
tough.
you had a ticket. You had a
Only
Colorado
second Big
ticket.
12 loss, so they could still make the championship game and make the playoffs. So
Think so?
they're not out of it. Yeah,
They're not out
there's
of
still
it
a chance
yet.
for all of
Okay.
them to make the championship game. I think.
Yeah. Are we sounding the cannons on any team yet?
In the Big 12,
Yeah.
the Big 12 is such a mess right now. It's hard to
Yeah.
even. I think. That's a good question.
Okay. Well,
I'll
while
do
you're
some
kind
research.
of while you're looking at that, with the Colorado game, Travis Hunter looks like he's locked up Heisman. He caught a 51-yard pass and a 26-yard pass once again doing the Heisman pose, and all of a sudden I look on DraftKings and Travis Hunter's minus 800.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, minus 8. So jumped up crazy. He had 8
Boise State
receptions,
looked kind of
125
mid
yards, and
yesterday.
2 TDs. Huh?
Boise State looked kind of mid yesterday as well.
Yeah. So that game, Kansas 37, Colorado 21, and it didn't even look fairly close, to be honest. From the very beginning, like Kansas took a 17-0 lead.
Kansas is like the hottest team in the country right now. I'm not even joking.
Not even
Like
joking.
I'm serious. Like
They play Baylor next week.
they're playing for a bowl game next week. But they in the last couple of weeks, like look at their schedule. They've beaten 4 ranked teams in a row. They beat Kansas State, Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado. Like they're taking out the
Pretty
top of
good.
the Big 12, like all in a row. Like that was 4 contenders.
It's pretty good.
So unfortunately, they started off the season very slow, and so they're fighting for it, but they're coming on strong. Shout out to them. I hope they can make a bowl game because they're a fun story right now.
So we're going into a couple of games, and I'm like, okay, I'm happy with how today's gone. Well, we're not even
Right.
done yet
We're not
because
even done.
we can speed by Notre Dame and Army. Notre Dame blew out Army, but here we got a couple games. Go ahead, you pick which one because we got a couple of them on the list here.
At the end of the
at the end of the day here.
I mean, I think the biggest surprise for everyone was the Bama Oklahoma result.
Yeah.
Jalen Milroe. I mean, this is an Oklahoma team that has been pretty derided throughout the course of this year as their offense is bad, which it is bad. And they basically just said, we're not going to pass the ball. We're just going to run the ball.
That's what happened
until they can stop it. Jackson Arnold, He's
He
not the
had
greatest
68
passer in the world.
yeah, he had 68 passing yards.
How many rushing yards did you have? Do you have the number?
He had 131 rushing yards. He had 25 carries.
By himself. He had 25. So he's basically a glorified like running back at this point.
Yeah.
And he is running Alabama's defense around the field like they couldn't stop it. On the other side of the ball, Oklahoma's defense, which has been good this season, really stepped up. They got to Milroe all game. They could not block them. Alabama's offensive line struggled mightily to stop this Oklahoma pass rush. They couldn't. I saw a stat that Alabama's running backs got a combined 15 carries for the game. It's not great.
Nope.
So the running game has continued to just be completely ignored this season by Kalen DeBoer. Milroe struggled, throws, I think, 3 interceptions throughout the course of the game.
He did, yeah.
Including some big ones late. They just never got anything going. I mean, they couldn't score when they got an opportunity. Oklahoma's defense continued to step up. They blew it open in the first half, and then they just got to coast in through the second half with good defense. So huge game for an Oklahoma team that has struggled in the SEC this year. I think that's big for their confidence going into. I mean, no one's expecting them to. They've struggled. They're like 2-5 in the SEC or something like that. But that is a huge win for them.
They had 260 rushing yards.
It's a lot of rushing yards, folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had get their offense together.
Yeah. They had 49 rushing attempts.
Maybe save Venable's job potentially.
Could be.
Very, very practically could have saved his job. So huge game. Bama. If I wish there was a podcast that might have predicted something like this would happen in year one for a new head coach, but Alabama struggled. They have 3 losses in the season. They're out of the playoffs, right?
I would think so.
These
right?
People keep, according to the talking heads around, they're like first out right now, which I think is we'll get there, but I think that is nuts.
You're just talking about Colorado having 3 losses because they
could win the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, they could.
That's the only way they.
Why would Alabama? I think Alabama. The only reason is just because of the college themselves. Like it's Saban's not even there, but it's. I think
a 3-loss team should be considered. I don't think it's Alabama.
No,
we'll get there.
Okay. Last one, unless you had another one, would be this 4 overtime.
Wild
shootout. And
wild game.
That was one that I was we were talking about if Texas A&M beat because they played Texas next week, right? And you were like, well, then you'd be putting Texas A&M in there, and so I was like, oh crap, you're probably right. So I was a little worried, but so Texas A&M plays up against Auburn, and what an insane game! Did you watch this game?
Yes, I watched almost all of this game.
So break it down for us.
It was on at the same time I was watching the Bama game. I actually watched I watched most of the games yesterday, the big ones. And really fun. Obviously, A&M struggled. It really came down to the fact that Auburn, who has been just a pretty – Peyton Thorne has struggled all season. Offensively, Auburn's been pretty bad. They went out to this huge lead, like 21-0 in the first half. A couple of huge plays, some turnovers, and really threw a haymaker at A&M in the first quarter. I mean, it was like 21-0 quick. Their offense really stalled out after that, which is to be expected because Auburn's offense is just not great. A&M fought back. It was like, I think there was 21-14 at halftime, something like that. They continued to fight where it was tied up. A&M took a lead, and I really thought A&M was kind of just walk away with it. Auburn kept fighting though at home, kind of for their season. It was the same situation in Oklahoma. These games were similar, where it was like a spoiler opportunity for a team that's really struggled to get a huge win, on their schedule to kind of end the season, and it happened both ways. Auburn fought, went to overtime, had a chance to win it in regulation.
They're 31-28.
Really probably should have won it in regulation. Didn't. which is another situation where you're like, wow, they should throw this game away. But they came out. Texas A&M dropped a game tying 2-point conversion.
Saw
It was a
that.
bad drop in fourth overtime. And it was a fun game. Really fun. Auburn, big win. We've got a really weird game next week now. The Iron Bowl is weird.
Yes.
Because Auburn is fighting for a bowl game. And you have a Bama team that now is, I guess, on their last leg for a playoff spot still, which seems crazy. We'll get there. Interesting game going on, though. It was overall a very fun day of college football. Some weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
It was like I went into the day thinking there was about 6 games that needed to go. Only one of them needed to go the right way, and I think Tennessee would have been in a pretty good spot. And really, 2 or 3 of them ended up falling that way.
Yeah.
And so it ended up being great. Indiana ended up not mattering as much because they're going to get in. I think if everything else had gone chalk, Indiana would have a serious conversation. But now it doesn't matter because the SEC kind of just ripped itself apart there. Three teams that were projected to be playoff bound are no longer playoff bound. So A&M, just for the record, though, does still have a chance to get in the playoffs.
With beating Texas.
The winner of Texas and Texas A&M will go to the SEC championship game. So if A&M beats Texas and then beats Georgia, they will be in the playoffs. At which point they will have deserved being in the playoffs.
For sure. With those 2 wins.
Which will take a spot probably from the ACC maybe, or from a 3-loss SEC team.
Yeah.
Well, do we want to do playoff potential right now?
I didn't know if you want to do that or save it for the Thanksgiving shenanigan episode.
We can save it. We can wait till after the playoff rankings drop. A couple teams are eliminated, but a lot of teams are still on the table. So pretty interesting stuff there in the SEC. But yeah, we can save it for Thursday. That's fine.
That way we'll have a better idea. Do you have any predictions going in? Like just some short, quick predictions going in, or do you want to save it?
I think the big question mark going into week 13 is going to be, will the committee put two ACC teams in or a 3-loss SEC team?
Okay.
Like Bama or South Carolina, who is my pick. I think South Carolina is more deserving than Alabama at this point, but whatever. They won the head-to-head, so that's probably why Bama's getting the nod ahead of them in some rankings, but I think the big question mark is going to be if SMU, Miami play in the ACC championship, what happens to the loser of that game? Do they fit into one of those spots, or will like a 3-loss SEC team like in Bama fit into that last spot?
Yeah,
which is the spot Tennessee was fighting for last week. Luckily, Tennessee has moved up now, so Tennessee is no longer there. But that last spot is kind of the one up for grabs right now. I think you're still looking at 4 Big Ten teams, the same 4, and you're looking at there's 3 SEC teams that look good. That would be Texas, Georgia, and Tennessee if Tennessee wins next week. Will we get a 4th SEC team, or will there be a second ACC team? So that's kind of the big question mark right now, I think.
All right, awesome. So we'll break that down. I'm officially calling Thursday's episode the Football Thanksgiving Shenanigans Show because I feel like there's going to be a lot of shenanigans in the football, and just you need some shenanigans on your Thanksgiving day. So thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate you guys checking out this week's episode, and we'll catch you on Thanksgiving Day. Everybody have a great week.
See ya.